you see, it's really Buy Zimbabwe speaks to wealth creation. And our view, our humble view, if I may just add, is that we must realize wealth creation is a collective effort. The group behavior is what would define Zimbabwe as a prosperous country. We would have people that in their individual life are millionaires or even better, but that does not mean Zimbabwe is a prosperous country. And by Zimbabwe, the background in short is that we were doing some 10 years, but 11 years now, a program called My Own Boss, starting from Zambia. It was a program that sought to support young entrepreneurs between the ages of 18 to 35. Succeeded in Zambia. We came with it in Zimbabwe. There was resistance to the program. And then CZI President Kanye said, doesn't this speak to the character of Zimbabwe, where Zimbabwe has over the time become individualistic? Why don't you try, because you are communicators, you are broadcasters, perhaps you could try what we have failed since 1980 to do, to try a Buy Zimbabwe initiative. So we started Buy Zimbabwe then as a program, a competitiveness driver, particularly looking at providing market access to local companies, providing opportunities to entrepreneurs in Zimbabwe. In essence, Buy Zimbabwe is a market access and opportunities organization, based on the view that unless you put your resources together and channel them to specific areas of need locally, no one really cares. We may disagree with what the president says in many other things, and that is a good thing to do. But I think where I think he's right is that of course, that's why we even have elections, to say I desire to be in a country that can provide jobs, that can provide wealth, where I'm a proud person. I'm not a laughing stock. So Buy Zimbabwe started in essence as this campaign that says, if you have a collective drive to the market, locally and internationally, you are likely to succeed rather than if you operate in an individualistic way. There was concern as we started that we are an advocate for protectionism. And we said, no. Yes, tactically, it may be necessary to protect certain areas of the business, but the agenda is not protectionism. It is not to protect. In fact, it is to be competitive. It is to compete. It is to do better than the other person from another country. South Africa, the US, UK, we are competitiveness driver. We believe Zimbabwe can be number one. When we started Buy Zimbabwe now, 11 years back, if you went on the local supermarket shelves, it was the ratio of local products was less than 30%. In many instances, it was 10% or below. And the idea was to grow the shelf space to a minimum. The aspirational value at the time was, can we get to at least 50%? 11 years later, today, and Richard will tell you that We are, in certain instances, in some shops, 90%, but generally no less than 75%. And the acceptance of the locally produced product from 10 years back has totally shifted. It's a different ballgame. The main thrust, like I said, Buy Zimbabwe looks at three things. We are focused, we are a market access and opportunities organization. Because we believe only when you provide market access and opportunities do you then create wealth for local entrepreneurs, local companies. Do you create jobs and you become proud people? Many of us started business outside Zimbabwe during that lost decade, the hyperinflation period. I particularly remember many times when we travel around the world and people ask, where are you from? And you say, oh, I'm South African. Because each time you said, I am from Zimbabwe, my goodness me, the queues at the airport will literally come to a standstill as people ask you, oh, you guys, why are you doing this? We became a laughing stock in many ways. Zimbabwe has not retained her pride. And particularly, personally, I didn't like that. I didn't like having to hide my identity based on an economic performance of my country. I don't know many on this group, but I don't like it. And therefore, one of the key issues was, how do we make sure that our young people in Zimbabwe can go to school and know that I can have an opportunity, I can get a job in my own country? How, if I'm an entrepreneur, is there an opportunity to create wealth for myself? If I'm a business, am I assured, all things held constant, to be in business for a reasonable amount of time? So, three things: jobs, wealth, pride. Through, as I said, market access and opportunities. Method. We advocate for the preference of locally produced quality and underlying quality goods and services. No legislative framework informs it, even though we fit into many of the local policies and the many Procurement Act or the many other existing legislations. The whole idea is the thrust is wealth has a way in which it can come. If you don't follow science in wealth creation and you depend entirely for everything importing, particularly utilizing your primary products, mining, there will come a time when that gold, that lithium or anything is exhausted and you will be poor. So a lot of it is based on what we've seen around the world. Australian made, proudly South African, by British, made in China, made in India, and all that. All those are efforts to say, how do we ensure that our economies are structured in such a way that they take care of the concerns of our own citizens? Buy Zimbabwe works with three main constituencies. Naturally, we are at the epicenter of entities that benefit from the issues that we've talked about: jobs, wealth, and pride. And therefore, we are at the intersection of government interest, consumer interest, and business interest. Government, when citizens have jobs, not only they bring stability to that country, security, political, etc., but they pay taxes. Taxes help us to repair the roads, and in Zimbabwe we know the state of our roads, to buy drugs for our hospitals, to take kids to school, to take care of universities. There's so much. When you have jobs and wages that are proper. Companies exist to create value and get a return, wealth. So when you are creating markets, when you're advocating for markets, locally, internationally, you naturally have a strong relationship with companies. Because companies, we believe as by Zimbabwe, it's private sector that creates jobs. So business is a major driver, and for Buy Zimbabwe it's even a core driver, because this is a private sector-led initiative. Consumers, obviously, because they're the ones that buy, they're the ones that prefer, they're the ones that go into the shops. Consumers, and it could be companies themselves consuming from other companies. So it's business, government, and consumers, and Buy Zimbabwe is right at the center of that. I'll tell you the fast moving consumer goods in terms of the movement from 30% of the law to current levels above 70% is impressive. Absolutely. However, we have also regressed in many ways. The uptake of locally produced goods and in some case services within the mining sector has dwindled. I would say we are currently below 40%. And take note, by the research done by the Chamber of Mines has said over 70% of money from the mining industry is given to local suppliers. However, of that money that goes to local suppliers, the products that emanate from Zimbabwe are less than 20%. So if you say, so it's generally 60% or above, way above, of the money into the mining sector which comes from outside Zimbabwe. The risk is we will attain 12 billion and the money will literally be generated from here and goes out in one form or the other, primarily issues of procurement. So last year we had over 5 billion. But you must know that of that 5 billion, when it comes to supplies, a greater percentage of that amount went to buy goods made elsewhere. And this has to do with a lot of the deindustrialization that took place in Zimbabwe. I'm hoping that with the resuscitation of Zisco Steel or coming in of other steel industry, and the steel industry, we can deal with that, because a lot of it has to do with the fact that Zimbabwe does not have a steel industry. And we need to reverse that, because it means we are taking raw material, what we use to even extract the raw material comes from outside the country. And we're still, a lot of the processing and value add of our primary products is also then taken out, and then we buy it at a higher price. That's definitely no way to create broader wealth. That's no way to create jobs. So, FMCG, good. Mining, not so good. Let's also look at the oil expressors, oil producers. The indication that I have is that right now primary products that we use for our oil, our cooking oil, is cottonseed, soya. But the two are less than 20% of raw materials, which means over 80% of raw materials into our cooking oil industry in Zimbabwe is actually imported from Ukraine and Russia. And you know what these two countries are doing every day, including right now. They're busy bombing each other. And I doubt they are leaving some wheat fields or some sunflower fields free simply because Zimbabwe wants to import from them. They will burn that field, and it doesn't matter what happens to the rest of the world. That's the nature of war. We are exposed, but why should it be so? When we have so much land which lies unutilized, underutilized, I am told, yes, government has designated sunflower as a strategic crop, but currently the sunflower industry does not contribute anything to our cooking oil industry. So you see a lot of the work done in terms of the land reform, but the issues of productivity and linking up to the manufacturing sector is still something that needs to be done. But can't we as a nation rally young people, rally our universities to say, look, there's a gap. Can you produce competitively oil seed and supply the market? That's an opportunity, and that's the challenge that we have. Because remember, we are talking about Russia and Ukraine, but these are countries that have gone beyond taking care of their own national requirements to export. We are still challenged with local requirements. So we need to have a conversation around how we shift those. Structurally, mining, how do we make sure that mining utilizes goods that are made in Zimbabwe is a strategic focus. Yes, we take note, price, quality, accessibility. So are these things that can be done? What needs to be done? What milestones do we hold ourselves to? We import between $200 and $500 million annually of soya in a country where we have serious foreign currency limitations. What can we do? But we need to go beyond words and hold ourselves to account to those challenges we have. How do we enhance the local value chains? You see, here is another thing. Yes, the supermarket shelves 80 to 90%, but if you look at the product, the content, you actually then see a different picture. The fact that you have a product written by Zimbabwe, made in Zimbabwe, by Zimbabwe, probably Zimbabwe, does not mean the content is primarily Zimbabwean. Does not mean that product is fully integrated into your primary, secondary, tertiary levels. It does not mean the key component of that product are Zimbabwean. So when you don't have an idea about what constitutes your products, then the issues of how much wealth, how deep are we, or how much are we saving becomes something else. So the next level, besides dealing with the structural issues of the uptake of the soya, oilseed, the ones that I've spoken about, and the mining side, a critical issue in Zimbabwe is that we need to firstly be clear about the content of our product. And the government policy, and I'm glad Professor Mtuli has said it, we must purposely reward companies that are investing in broader value chains. And then we, as by Zimbabwe, we started last year, we launched with a recognized certification body, a local rating certification. What we need is to formalize that and make sure that every local product say, oh, this one has 50%, 70%, 80%, 100% local content. This does not take away the need to compete. I mean, I was saying to at our Buy Zimbabwe Awards, which we held last week, no one has ever criticized a Catalonian for supporting Barcelona, because it should be expected that they support Barcelona. And they also understand that even though their interest is to get Barcelona to win all the matches in the world, or FC Platinum, where I come from, in Shishavan, I understand the rules of the game. I understand the need to make sure that FC Platinum does not win by scoring like Shansa Maoko. They must play the game proper. So we understand. But it is important that you understand your home team. And our home team is Zimbabwe. And our we support, and in any interest we ever want, when there is a Zimbabwean product versus another foreign product, we want the Zimbabwean product to win. And we also want everything to be done. Look at what, to go back to soccer. Spain won because a lot of the players that used to play for Barcelona and Real Madrid were Spanish. And the other guys went to the World Cup. And they beat the guys because England would have all good players that were coming from all over the world. And then when the World Cup comes, they will remain with the two that were good enough, and then they'll look for other guys who are not playing, and they will lose the game. So there is rationale to making sure that the highest level is played for by the home team, home players. This is not a Dudula kind of thing that is South Africa, that okay, if you are foreign, therefore I must chop your head or something like that. No. This is just about saying, to win in the world, we must go with our local players. So if it means I'm going to get an expert somewhere to come and help me polish up my teams at home, so be it. Obviously, everything we're looking at, are we based on the first one is import versus export. Are we beating imported products on the supermarket shelves? That's the thing. The shelf space allocation, local versus foreign. That's one key indicator that we track. The second one is obviously what I've just said. What is our local content ratio? Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? The third one is obviously but which is also related to that, on the basis of increase in market share. Are we creating more jobs? Are we creating more income that resides in Zimbabwe? And then is the perception, which will be later on, becoming better of the local product and service. That's what we look at. How do we compare with probably South Africa? Obviously, South Africa has done way better than us. Their public procurement is way higher than us. If you look at their Public Procurement Act, for instance, they are now on 100% made in South Africa, 100% South African. We are still way below 50%.
When are we coming back from Ghana?
From a consumer perspective, it's just the uptake of the local product. The fact that consumers now purposefully look for the Buy Zimbabwe insignia, the fact that on the local shelves you have, as in and Richard, over 80% of products sought for by consumers being Zimbabwean products. That's amazing. From below, from government, the fact that we now have a local content policy, the fact that we're working together on local content policy, the fact that they are realigning the Procurement Act to prioritize local, that is well. And then from a business as well, I mean, a number of, when we started as Buy Zimbabwe, even within the business sector, there was worry that if we identify with Zimbabwean product, would we not disadvantage ourselves on the market? But a number of products now have the Buy Zimbabwe insignia. There are questions that I'll try to answer. Some might not be able to go there. Why are goods? It's an unfortunate generalization. What we did as Buy Zimbabwe last year, we sought to actually put that question to task. Is it true that all imported products are cheaper than all Zimbabwean products? And the answer was absolutely not. And I would challenge people to go into the shops and check for themselves. Yes, there are some lines that are cheaper, but in general terms, you have a significant number of locally produced goods and services that are cheaper than imported goods and services. Fact. Why are goods in Zimbabwe, made in Zimbabwe, cheaper outside the country? Not that I have evidence to back this up, but my supposition is that sometimes I think one of the challenges that we face in Zimbabwe is this because of this current situation we have. We have had a lot of argument, people saying, you know what, it doesn't matter even if the currency was 1 to 500, as long as it was stable. Instability is the biggest killer that we have on our currency. It's better to plan. Not that today you're 100, tomorrow 300, tomorrow 400, 300, 250 and all that. And I think we need to do that. So a lot of companies in Zimbabwe are now hedging. So they anticipate where the rate is going. And then they put it at that price. And then in the quest of getting foreign currency, some would go to the ends of the world to make sure that the product, they get the US dollar. Because our auction system is a fact, has not been functioning the way it should. There's been a lot of dysfunctionality in terms of so you don't, I think if there's anything that we need to deal with our economics in Zimbabwe is to get a much more transparent, much more open system, because people allege that the parallel market is driven by the informal sector. But the informal sector does not generate funds above 2 billion against 5-7 billion extra which is generated. So how come a 7 billion foreign currency formal market is being determined by a 2 billion informal market? I don't understand that. Either it means we're pricing our money inappropriately, or there's a serious bottleneck within our system. And we need to deal with that. It looks like we need to deal with certain issues that are getting us perennially in a situation of instability. I mean, it's not like Zimbabwe the economy is burning and we're growing at 20%, and therefore there are things that are happening and all that. It should be possible, in my view, to manage the currency in a way that is predictable, where people have confidence in terms of the local unit. Sadly, because that is not happening, number one, companies forward hedge. Number two, people will then price anything to get the US dollar because it's critically needed on the local market.